Hey folks, this is Clayton. I'm just recording our first online weekly check-in. And what I wanted to do today is just spend a little bit of time talking about the assignment from last week on audience and purpose, then also kind of going through the thesis and introduction and conclusion assignments, just so that everybody's on the same page about what those assignments are. So let's begin by talking about the audience and purpose assignments. So basically there are three parts to it. We're going to be doing page 18, exercise A, page 22, exercise A, and then page 23 and 24. So let's take a look really quickly at the first assignment. So on page 18, exercise A, you're going to be asked to go and look at each one of these topics and to decide whether or not you could cover that adequately in a 500 to 800 word essay. So basically we're talking about a 2 to maybe 3 page paper. So what we're saying is, can you talk about everything that you would need to say about that subject in an essay of 2 to 3 pages? Basically, all you need to do is just write down numbers 1 through 10 and then say yes or no. And if you say no, then kind of explain why. Okay, our next assignment's found on page 22. And basically what you're asked to do is on page 22 and 23, basically what we're going to be talking about is looking at analyzing an audience and how that affects our writing. So the book gives an example on page 23 of the Geico ad. Now you can use the Geico ad, or you can go and find any other advertisement that you would want and answer these basic questions. So the questions 1 through 4, and so I'm looking for about 2 to 3 sentences per question. Okay. And so basically what you're going to be doing is talking about things like age, gender, is there a specific social group that this belongs to, what concerns or interests do they have, what kinds of arguments are they making that are aimed specifically at that audience, and what in the ad would lead you to believe the things that you wrote about. The last assignment is found on page 24. And on this, you've read an essay about breatharianism. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if this diet really exists or not, but that's not really relevant to the assignment. Basically, once you've read the essay, you're asked on page 25 to choose one of the 3 options. Either writing a single-page flyer and convincing people to pay the $500 to come to the seminar, write a letter to the city council asking for permission to have a demonstration or parade, or number 3, writing a letter to a police department asking them, voicing your concerns about the Breathe Air movement. Okay, so for any one of these 3, your assignment should be about a page long, about 250 words. And what I should really see is, you should not write, obviously you're not going to write the same thing, but what I want you to think about is the audience you're writing to. How would you convince somebody, especially in an economic situation like we live in today, how would you convince somebody to spend $500 to go to a seminar? Okay, if you're writing to a city council, what kinds of things would a city council be most concerned about if you were to have a parade? And if you're writing to a police department asking them to investigate a company, what kinds of questions would a police department have? And what would you need? What kinds of evidence would you need to give them to convince them to start investigating this company? So those 3 assignments, if you put those all in one file, that's the audience and purpose assignment. Our next assignment is found today, and it's the thesis assignment. So we see page 39, exercise A, page 40, the assignment, and then page 43 through 45, the assignment. So let's go to page 39 and let's take a look at that. Hold on just a second. So on page 39, exercise A, you're going to be looking at these thesis statements based on the rules that we just looked at, the 7 rules. So what you're going to be doing for each one of these thesis statements is telling me whether or not the thesis statement is adequate or inadequate. If the answer is inadequate, then you need to tell me why. What is it that you see in that particular thesis statement that causes you some concern? Okay. Our next assignment is found on page 40, exercise, the assignment. So we're in this middle section right here. Now, all you have to do for this assignment is narrow the subject and write one good thesis sentence for 5 of these topics. All you're writing is one sentence, not an essay. So basically, if you were to look at number 1, a political or social issue, well, you would need to figure out what political or social issue you would be writing about, and you would write a thesis sentence that you would use if that was the assignment that you were given. Okay, so for the page 40, the assignment, all I should see are 5 sentences. That's all you have to turn in. Then last, we see on page 43 and 45. Okay, hold on just a second. I went a little too far here. Okay, now, what you see on pages 43 through 45 is a series of well-known or not so well-known sayings. I can't even think of what the word is, but yeah, these are just common folk sayings. Okay, using one of these quotations, come up with a subject for an essay of your own. Don't just use the quotation as the thesis sentence, but use it kind of as, what is this saying trying to tell us? And then writing a thesis sentence for an essay that would focus on the idea behind the quotation. Okay, so all you have to do is to write a thesis sentence, okay, based on one of these quotes, and then second, this last line, don't forget to designate an audience for your essay, a group of readers who need or want to hear what you have to say. So basically, you're going to do 2 things. Number 1, you're going to write the thesis sentence. Then number 2, you're going to explain who your target audience is and why. Okay, so it's a 2-part sentence. So you should have about maybe a paragraph for this part of the assignment. Okay, so these are the thesis activities. Lastly, we have the introduction and conclusion assignments on pages 85, 90, and 92. Let's go to page 85. Okay, in this assignment, basically you're going to use the ideas of the lead-ins that we talked about earlier in the chapter, and you're going to identify what is the primary or most specific lead-in strategy that they're using. Now, this is going to sound really strange. Don't overthink this assignment. I've had students that have turned in that almost every one of these uses 7 or 8 introductory strategies. That's not really the case. Normally, there's one primary focus for the introduction. Okay, so for these 5 questions, or these 5 introductions, what is the primary or main strategy or approach they're using to get our attention? Okay, so basically, let's just identify what that is. There's 5 questions. Okay, we're also looking at page 90. Hold on just a second. Get this to work with me. Let the computer think about it for a second. Okay, on page 90, what you're looking for in page 90 is what's happening in these conclusions that doesn't work. What's wrong with these conclusions? There are approximately, let's see, 3 of them. So it should be fairly easy to identify what problem is happening in that particular conclusion. And then finally on page 92, you're going to be revising the 10 statements here. You're rewriting essay titles. So you're looking at what can I do to improve the title of an essay if this is what I saw. So for example, advice to college freshmen is incredibly vague, incredibly broad, and really doesn't give me an idea of where the essay is headed. Okay, so number 1, we're looking at what introductory strategy they use. In the second assignment, what's wrong with the conclusion. And then number 3, how can I fix these essay titles? That covers the first 3 assignments that we've had. Please feel free to turn these in at any time. Please remember that these assignments are due by February 3rd. If you have any questions or if you have any concerns, please feel free to give me a call, drop me an email, or best yet, if you can, just come into my office. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. I know that for some of you, this is the first online class you've taken, and there's a lot of feelings of uncertainty because you're just kind of hanging out there on the internet and you're not really sure if you're doing things right. Please feel free to come into my office. Now, I won't grade your assignments beforehand, but I'm more than happy to walk you through them, to answer any questions you have, and to basically give you any support you need so that you can get the kinds of grades that you want to in this class. All right, that pretty much covers our review for this week. If you have any questions, again, call me at 282-3257. Email me at lambclay@isu.edu. My office is in the Roy F. Christensen Building, B168. Thanks. Have a great day.